So yesterday I created a video and I was speaking about how the immigrants are marching in our streets, demanding things from us and acting entitled to our land. And now I have a bunch of lice babies in my comment section saying, your land? This is not your land. Your land is in Africa. This land belongs to the natives. You better be careful because Trump is going to come after you people next and you're going to have to leave. So I just wanted to come and point out a couple of facts because I see you people lack knowledge. You're not that educated, so I'm here to teach you. I'm going to tell you about a few of just 3 of the black towns, the successful, thriving black towns that were destroyed by angry white mobs. Let's start here. Before Central Park was created, the landscape along what is now the park's perimeter from West 82nd to West 89th Street was the site of Seneca Village, a community of predominantly black Americans, many of whom owned property. Seneca Village was established in 1825. 1825. The village was formed when landowners John and Elizabeth Whitehead subdivided their land and sold it as 200 lots, primarily to free black residents. Free black residents in 1825, but slavery didn't end until 1863. So if there were free black residents in 1825, that means that they were not enslaved. Free black residents. So they were not slaves, which means they had to be natives to this land because according to you, all the black people came here on ships from Africa to be slaves. So if there were black people here building and living, they were not slaves, which means they are native. Now let's talk about the Wilmington Massacre. The Wilmington Insurrection of 1898, also known as the Wilmington Massacre of 1898, was a municipal-level coup and a massacre that was carried out by white supremacists in Wilmington, North Carolina, United States, on Thursday, November 10th, 1898. In 1860, just before the American Civil War, before slavery ended, Wilmington was the state's largest city with a population of nearly 10,000, most of whom were black. So they had a population of 10,000, mostly of who were black before slavery ended, which means they were freedmen, which means they were not slaves, which means they were Native American, the true Indians. Now, last but most certainly not least, let's talk about Tulsa, Oklahoma, the one that we're most familiar with, Black Wall Street. The foundations of the Greenwood district and Black Wall Street were built in the 1830s when African Americans first migrated to Oklahoma. But let's look at why these black Americans migrated to Oklahoma. The Indian Removal Act and Trail of Tears. The Indian Removal Act of 1830, signed by President Andrew Jackson, forced Native American tribes to relocate from their southeastern homelands to Indian Territory, present-day Oklahoma. The forced migration of Native American tribes, including those with enslaved people to Indian Territory in the 1830s and 1840s, set the stage for the later development of Black Wall Street. They're trying to say it happened later, but no, I just showed you something that said that the land started to be established. Black Wall Street started to be built in 1830 when the Indians were forced to go to Oklahoma. We are the Indians. In 1830, slavery was not over, which means we were the Native Americans. And this is why they're trying to destroy our history. Because if they don't destroy our history and erase it, then we will be smart enough to do our research. And then we will realize, hold on, we were building these towns before slavery was over, which means we could not have been the slaves. They don't want us to know that all of us weren't slaves. So they're trying to whitewash our history and we don't even care. We're okay with not knowing who we are. We're okay with sending our children to school and allowing the white man, the oppressors, to teach us who we are and teach us their history because, like I said, we don't care and it's time for us to wake up. We are the Native Americans. We are the Indians, which means this is our land. Black power forever.
You know, when I see her anger and her passion, that really, it really gets to my heart because I understand why she feels that way. Most Black Americans, all of us, we all feel that shit. The FBA movement or FBA lineage, we feel that shit. You know what I mean? Because it's just it's just being sick and tired of having to deal with the bullshit. Like our ancestors deal with, our grandmas, our great grandmas, our great great grandmas deal with it, and today we still got to deal with this bullshit. So people love to put that angry black stereotype on all of us, but at the same time, nah, it's warranted anger. Like I get where she's coming from, and I just want to say that because I do, care for my people, and I hate to see, I hate the fact that we got to feel that way, that we got to carry that anger and that trauma. You know what I mean? It sucks, but you know, I appreciate y'all. This video right here is for them haters who was in my last video about the Native Americans and debunking them Siberian pretendians that was in there trying to disprove me, talking about you have no evidence, you have no evidence. Okay, this is part one. I'm gonna keep dropping evidence videos for you dudes because, and y'all can debunk it as you go if you can in the comments. I'll keep dropping all these evidence videos because I'm sick of y'all. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna argue with you in the comments, although I do enjoy arguing with y'all in the comments. We could do it all day, but I'm not going to argue with you in the comments and type out all of this evidence for you to just say, what are you talking about? No, I'll put it in the video. You can watch it. You tell me what you think about it. Let's go.
And but in his time in Mesoamerica, he started noticing things. There are lots of things that led him to encounter certain discoveries that made him consider that possibly if the origins of American civilization might actually be in Africa. So he observed so many linguistic and botanical and other similarities that between 1920 and 1922, he published an extensive 3-volume piece called Africa and the Discovery of America. Now, unfortunately, this is the 1920s, so as yet, no serious archaeological evidence had been done to, or work had been done to support his botanical theories, because everyone was over raiding tombs in Egypt and things like that. Nod to Howard Carter. So he didn't have a whole lot of other stuff than the names to support him. However, he knew that other clues must exist. For example, he pointed out that Columbus himself was aware that African mariners had preceded him. In his diary of his second voyage, Columbus tells of how the natives of Hispaniola actually had given him gold-tipped metal spearheads that they said were brought by black-skinned people who had come in large boats from the south and southeast. Coincidence? I think not. No. So what's interesting about that, so upon returning to Spain, is that he actually took the spearheads and he sent them away and they had them assayed, and it turned out to be that these spearheads were covered in this metal, this alloy that the inhabitants called guanin, and the metallurgists actually found out that this was an alloy of 32 parts. It was like 18 of gold, 6 of silver, 8 of copper, which, dun dun dun, matched the metal used in spearheads made in Western Africa for thousands of years, as carried by medieval African warriors, including the Mali and the Moors. The West Africans even called this metal guanine, the same name used by the natives of Hispaniola.
And let me just start by saying that I don't agree with everything that he's saying. Like, American civilization started in Africa or is based in Africa, I don't believe that. But a lot of what he's bringing up and what he's going to bring up is clear evidence that black people were for sure on this continent before Christopher Columbus, and for sure had tribes here, and for sure were doing their own thing here, and that there was peaceful trade between different continents, excluding the Europeans. Let's keep going.
Conspiracy. Well, probably because, in the interest of Spain, it was in their best interest that they didn't want to have any challenges to their discovery and the claims to the islands of the West Indies. Well, as the poem goes, or it should anyway, in 1493, Columbus stole all he could see. Yeah, so on his second voyage, which was 10 times larger than the first, Columbus went on a frantic but unsuccessful island hopping trip to find gold and spices. He carried along several natives from his newly discovered San Salvador, which the inhabitants called Guanahanvi. Another island that the natives pointed out, which was really large, and was called Soameto. Soameto. Now, Columbus continued going around whimsically renaming every island he could find. But, Leo Wiener, being the curious person and the linguist that he was and the etymologist, he couldn't help noticing that the origin of these many place names and botanical names in Mesoamerica actually sounded distinctly like other languages in Africa, particularly Bantu and even Arabic. Wiener and numerous other botanists have also puzzled over the presence of certain plants that predated Columbus but originated in Africa. For example, the calabash bottlegourds. Now, this is a species originally from West Africa, where they were well cultivated in America before Europeans arrived. Now, even long before they existed in Indonesia or Polynesia. So, in fact, the Pacific was the last place that bottle gourds actually reached and expanded to. Well, if it were not for transatlantic trade, pre-Columbian times, it would be very difficult to explain how certain plants, such as the yam, the sweet potato, domesticated cotton, peanuts, and tobacco, reached both West Africa and the Americas. The spread of the plantain is particularly noteworthy because it could not remain viable if it was carried in salt water. Well, in the 1640s, a Brazilian botanist named George Marcgrave wrote that the establishment of particular varieties of plantains in this region stands as a strong argument for ancient maritime contact between the Americas and Africa. That's bananas. B-A-N-A-S. How do these plants and languages and other cultural elements get to the Americas? Well, some believe, so what's that? Well, you're cheating. Well, some people believe that over thousands of years, Africans migrated out of Africa and then over the Bering Strait, then down into South America, and things like that. Well, another explanation exists, and so get ready. There you go, let it out of your system. Awesome. Africans had ships. In fact, they had four kinds of, unbelievable. They had a shipload of vessels, and they had away. The anchors away. So, in fact, they had four kinds of vessels. And Nubian pottery, this is an example of Nubian pottery with a painting on it that shows a long-hold pottery. Art! That shows either a long-hold boat or a papyrus raft or a hulled-out canoe. And then this other painting beside it is from, the first one was from 3000 BC, and this is a bird's-eye view of an oared riverboat in Chad. And it dates from 3500 BCE. Now, the Africans of Guinea also had dugout canoes hewn from these monumental trees on the coast there. In 1500, just a few years after Columbus's voyage, the Portuguese captain Pacheco Pereira wrote, "In this country can be found the largest canoes made of a single trunk. Some are so large that they hold 80 men." Now, the West Africans were known to lash two dugout canoes together, side by side, and no one questions the seaworthiness of a similar type of Polynesian catamarans. Well, here's a 15th century Portuguese painting of sailing canoes on the Congo estuary. The Portuguese, like Captain Pereira, had heard that African traders were visiting Brazil in the mid-1400s. So to demonstrate that mariners from West Africa could have sailed to the Americas using papyrus vessels as early as 2000 BCE, Norwegian adventurer Tor Heyerdahl actually used ancient shipbuilding techniques in order to construct and sail the Ra 1 and the Ra 2 in 1969 and 70. And generally, some type of sailing vessel will average about 100 miles per day, even without sails. And in an ocean current, something like a raft or a reed boat can average about 60 miles a day. Now, Islamic historian Amir Hajib reported that voyages west from Mali were happening in the year 1311, just 150 years before Columbus. Now, when he asked the Mali emperor, shown here, incidentally, holding a globe of the world made of solid gold, asked him, well, tell me about this rumor about Atlantic travel. And he said that his predecessor had commissioned an expedition with 200 ships filled with men and a similar number with gold and water and enough provisions for 2 years. And he said, go out and find something. And if you don't come back till you find something or you run out of food. And unfortunately, only one ship returned, and the captain told the emperor that we sailed for a very long time until we met what seemed like a river with a strong current flowing in the open sea. I was the last ship, and I turned where I was and did not enter the current. The others disappeared. I do not know what became of them. So, well, this story seems to describe the trade wind-driven equatorial current, or the Canary Current. Now, two circular rivers in the ocean here, and you can see it's very easy for Africans from the south and the Angola regions to come up towards the equator and going westwards, or from the western coast of Africa, north of the equator, to go eastwards along that same current. But this Mercator projection doesn't really, in terms of cartography, boom Mercator, it really doesn't do it justice. So let me just, I did this little animation for you to show that they could have taken the Canary Current up and around, and then they go over they fall off the edge of the earth, and then they come back and they make landfall back again in Cape Verde. So it is definitely possible. So. I definitely had to do that. Now, at least a dozen explorers, including Constantine Ravenous, reported seeing blacks upon reaching the New World. In fact, in 1513, Spanish explorer Vasco Núñez de Balboa, who you might know because people named a very popular dance after him. Anyway, so when Balboa was there, he said he met members of a tribe of Ethiopians in Panama. And according to Balboa's log, these men came from a totally black village that was 2 days' journey away. And he figured that these blacks had come from Ethiopia at a much earlier date. So there are also examples of physical evidence, including pre-Columbian African skeletons, which have been found throughout the Americas. Now, dating between 800 BCE and 300 CE, these murals are from the Temple of the Warriors at Chichen Itza. Now, they clearly feature, the color version is easier to see, but they clearly feature 3 races. And it's depicting black and Indian allies and a battle against white invaders. Now, because of their long blonde hair jewelry, a skin-hulled boat that we have here, right there, and also the fact that they're fighting naked, which was common for warriors from Ireland. They believe that these are Celtic warriors, and because this mural shows that blacks are clearly fighting on the side of the Mayans, that they must have been integrated into society much longer before this painting was done in order to form that form of alliance. Now, there are numerous pre-Columbian figurines with striking similarities to ancient African artwork, and they've been found in Central and South America. In southeastern Mexico, there are 18 rock statues of heads up to 11 feet tall that are facing the ocean looking east. Now, archaeologists call them the Olmec colossal heads after the people that carved them. And they were produced for 50 to 200 years and date from at least 900 BCE when they were mysteriously buried for some reason. So now think about it. It took enormous effort to quarry these. The smallest one was 6 tons, so 6 to 50 ton blocks, to quarry them and carry them 75 miles away from the quarry, and then carve them, and then erect them. These people that they modeled them after must have been important. Whoever they were, they must have been important to be remembered or obeyed or worshipped. Well, Jose Megler Serrano, the archaeologist who first uncovered them, he pointed out that facial features look amazingly like African blacks, and they all display distinctive headgear or protective helmets. Now, however, some people think that these are actually the facial figures of overweight babies. Yeah, I think they needed to wear helmets when they were babies if they think that. So, yeah. And then still others find it easier to believe that instead of Africans, those depicted or responsible for these sculptures, and as well as the Mesoamerican pyramids, were not African Americans, but dun dun dun. So why is it that so many people have never heard of this alternative of American discovery by the continent's nearest neighbors to the east? So, I mean, look, now the thing, exactly, whoa, where'd all the continents go? So, this is, look at how close this is. I mean, white people don't think that you could go, this is closer compared to more than twice the distance that Columbus sailed. This will win a drink for you in a bar game sometime. Which state is closest to Africa? Maine. Yeah, look, see there, you gotta need a globe for this. Look at that, versus, yeah, geometry. And so very few Americans know this, and why is it? So having examined textbooks throughout for years, up until 2018, James W. Lowen says that although some books cite the alternative possibility that Vikings, Norse, or even Irish may have reached America first, not one textbook, old or new, mentions the West Africans. So whether or not you give any credence to this admittedly controversial Afrocentric theory, it's obvious that Columbus was not the first to discover America, but the last. So why did he make such an indelible mark on Western people's minds? Well, conquest may have a lot to do with it. Right, Eurocentrism. And also, unlike the mundanity of perhaps thousands of years of peaceful African transatlantic trade, the quest for gold and world domination makes a much better story. And, the good Queen Isabella was so proud of her fella that she immediately equipped Columbus with 17 ships, 1,500 men, 200 cannons, crossbows, cavalry, and even 20 attack dogs for a second voyage. And another. And another. The story of Columbus remains the most widely accepted version of American discovery, most likely because it was the most recent, the most well-armed, the most documented, and the most similar in appearance to the authors of American textbooks. Historian Samuel D. Marble wrote, as a subject for research, the possibility of African discovery of America has never been a tempting one for American historians. We choose our own history, or more accurately, we select those vistas of history that more or less kind of explain to have the promise of the greatest satisfaction for ourselves. And we have had little appetite to explore the possibility that our founding father was a black man.
Like he said, dozens of explorers have wrote about seeing dark-skinned people. Not one, not two. That could be a coincidence, but dozens have wrote about seeing dark-skinned tribes, dark-skinned people. A lot of them even said akin to African Negroid features. So they look just like Negroids. Why are there Negroids on this continent? You know what I mean? This is a Negroid continent. It's how they felt, bro. So sitting around and saying that, oh yeah, no, there wasn't any black people is crazy. Especially when we were the original people of the earth, period. That shows in DNA sequences. We have more DNA sequences than anybody. That shows in a Neanderthal DNA. Honestly, I think one of the nasty niggas around here and back in the past fucked the Neanderthal. And that's where y'all came from. We got one dirty nigga who would do that too. He was like, and he fucked around and created, nah. That's just a theory though. I'm not trying to say that's where white people come from. I'm just saying that's a funny ass theory though. You gotta admit it. Anyway, yeah, but you already know what I'm talking about. Like, if we were the original people on the earth, why is it so hard to believe? And then I'm arguing with this guy in the comments of my Native American video, and he's like, Okay, yeah, there was black people in Asia first. There was black people in South America first. There was black people in the Caribbean. There was black people in Australia. I'll admit there's black people in Europe first. Of course, Africa. But I won't admit you guys were in America. Not you. You come off a slave ship. That's basically how they feel. They just want us. They just don't want us to have our identity. They want us to be the slaves. You know what I mean? The people who came off the slave ship. If you didn't, you wouldn't care. I don't know what Ethiopians are doing. I'm not trying to say they're doing anything. But if they were out there saying, we're God's chosen people and we come from America, I'm just going to watch the theory like, damn, these niggas kind of crazy. But all right, cool. That's you. You're not going to catch me on there trying to debunk these niggas or do anything because I don't care that much about what they're doing. And just to interject right here, because I just thought about this, the Somalians do have a theory that they come from Minnesota. I've never watched this theory. I don't know anything about the theory that they come from Minnesota. They think Minnesota is their promised land. I don't know if it's even true. I just heard that they have a theory that they come from Minnesota. They're saying they come from Minnesota. I have never once gotten to a Somalian comment section like, y'all don't come from no damn Minnesota. I don't give a fuck where they say they come from. That don't got nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? That don't got shit to do with me. It don't. It really don't. So why would I be in the comment section arguing with a Somalian about where they come from? That's your prerogative, bro. That's what you got going on. I don't even know what these races got going on. I don't watch Jamaicans. I don't watch Haitians. I don't watch Mexicans. I don't watch, well, I do watch a Mexican. I watch Ricardo's videos sometimes, but I'm not saying I don't watch any other races' videos, but I don't know what's going on with their race. I don't know what type of debates they're having within their community. I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know their theories about anything that they got going on. It don't matter to me. That's not my business. So why is a fucking Venezuelan in my comments about us being Native Americans? I'm not saying I'm native to Venezuela. Why do you care? It's just because they want us to be slaves so fucking bad, bro. And it's weird. It's a weird ass energy. But let's keep going.
Every Native American tribe I've met, every federal petition I've met, all use Jim Crow and the Plecker Law and eugenics and all the different things to argue their federal petitions. They have to identify as Negroes to be recognized as an Indian tribe. Think about that.
That's deep.
Southeast Indians that apply has to prove they have Negro in them to be recognized. Don't believe me? Look it up, check it out. My argument has always been to them, why is the Yamasi a problem? I can tell you why the Yamasi is a problem. Because we're the only tribe that look like we were identified. How do I fake being a Negro? They be like, oh, y'all pretendians. How do you fake being a Negro? This is a description of my people. How do I pretend to be something that I, quote, look like? But you're descendants of us. Let's do one better. They say Seminole, Seminole, Cimarron, Maroon. So I hear my Maroon brothers say, oh, we're Maroons. To them, that equates to African. No, it doesn't. Cimarron, runaways, wild ones, the runaways. And you'll hear Seminole people say, no, that's not true. Well, I got links in our IG that says, yes.
They don't want for that to come out.
They don't want that to come out. Because, see, they don't know. They're still following the same oppressors that they say oppress them. They're following their information. Most of the websites and information you get in Native American tribes that they say is oral tradition isn't oral tradition. It is a regurgitation of what the Europeans said.
It's written tradition.
Right? But when we look at the word Seminole, runaway, you're going to tell me that those you see as Seminoles today look like Negroes on a slave plantation. That the colonists couldn't mistake them. Those my Negroes. You're going to tell me that the slave narratives inside of the court documentation, the judicial system that they have within the Lord proprietors, and all of the documentation that they have, which identified these as people as Negro that came off a ship, because that's what they did. They falsified paperwork. What do they call them? What is the terminology? I'm looking. I just had to come up with this the other day. Not the memoir, the manifesto. Thank you.
Oh, Aaron, he on it with the document.
I appreciate
so,
that.
That's gonna be
100%.
you got.
Thank you. So in the manifesto, it says from Africa, blah 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 blah. Right? So how do you, as this light-skinned brother, say that I look like my original people, I'm full-blooded, and you don't look like none of what they described your people as? But I can show you where the Creek people, all identified as Negroes. Matter of fact, I can even show you where books say the invention of the Creek Nation, which people hate when I do that. When I sat before Stephen Hahn and we had the 300th year anniversary for the Yamasi War, and the question was asked, it sounds like you're saying, what was the difference between a Creek and a Yamasi? And the man paused, and you could see him breathe like, I got to really answer this. He said there was none. Why? Because the Yamasi were identified as Negro.
There's only 4 phenotypes: Dravidian, Caucasoid, Mongoloid, which is Asians and Koreans and all of them. And then there's which is me and African. And so here's the issue that I'm having. Scientifically, according to the Australian Research Center for Ancient DNA, we can prove that white people, Caucasoid people, because even if you don't identify as white, the term is not a description. You can't be a y'all all fall genetically in the category of Caucasoid. And Caucasoids, according to not only history, but biblical history as well, descend from the Caucasus Mountain. How, with the Middle East being an extension of Africa, are Caucasoids claiming that they are native to a land that not only they were never there, they were there and inhabited it after us?
Did you know that black people only have 0.3% Neanderthal DNA? Every other race on the planet has 1 to 2%, and black people have 0.3. So in reality, black people are more human than any other race on this planet. These white supremacists going around saying that they're the peak human, no, sweetheart. Genetically, black people are the superior humans.
The science that they were proposing is not what we today would honor as scientific in any way. The eugenics movement has a direct link to the descendants of Charles Darwin. They somehow made the leap to these notions about racial purity. What is best for each race is racial purity. Plecker and his friends convinced the Virginia legislature to adopt very restrictive legislation in 1924. It's called the Racial Integrity Act. With this legislation, it was decreed that there were only 2 possible categories. One is white, which means a person you check that you're white if you have white ancestry, Caucasian ancestry, and absolutely nothing else. The other category is everybody else, and that's colored. So this was very hard on Virginia's indigenous community because in a sense it wipes away their identity on paper. Their ability to describe themselves as Indian was not possible. To describe themselves as Indian was not possible. To describe themselves as Indian was not possible.
So, to all you debunkers out there who try to say that this theory don't hold no validity, that's fine. I'll keep dropping evidence videos. You can debunk it in the comments. To everybody else out there, let me know what you think about this. I appreciate y'all for checking in. Like, comment, subscribe, hype this video up, and we out.